everyone, and good evening. My name is Kelly Olshan. I'm the program manager at Teens Council in the Arts, and thank you all for taking this Thursday evening to join us for Creative Conversations. Every Thursday, or rather every third Thursday of the month, we host this get together of citizens and creative community members to discuss important issues in the cultural sector. And today's topic is on disability, accessibility, and creative aging. So we're really excited to engage you in this conversation. To get everybody started, it would be great if you would like to introduce yourself via the chat, just your name, pronouns, artistic discipline or title, along with social media handle or anything else that you would like to share, just so we can get to know each other virtually. And before we dive in, I want to turn it over to my co-host, today's moderator, the lovely Walei Sabry from the Mayor's Office of Persons with Disabilities, who's going to lead us through an access check.
Thank you, Kelly. And thanks for everyone for joining us. My name is Walei Sabry, and I am the Digital Accessibility Coordinator at the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities here in New York City. I identify as a blind person. Just quick image description of myself. I'm a Middle Eastern man in my mid-30s with olive skin, brownish hazelish eyes, and long, dark, curly hair that I've been growing for about a year and a half. So it's super long. I used to call it pandemic hair, but that was a lie. I just wanted to grow my hair, and that was my excuse. It's currently tied up in a ponytail, so it looks neat and presentable. I am in my living room sitting on a couch, and I am wearing a white shirt with some off-white lines and dot patterns. Just want to start with an access check. This is something that is a pretty standard practice of the disability community, and we encourage folks to incorporate this into all of their events and meetings so that your participants have what they need to get the most meaningful experience out of your meeting or event. So I've been speaking for quite some time. I just want to check in with my fellow presenters. How's my volume? How's my speed? Am I speaking fast? Am I hard to hear or anything like that?
Wally, this is Alejandra. You sound good. Your pace is good. Your audio is good. You're nice and centered.
Thank you. And if at any case, folks start speaking too fast or you can't hear us as well, do let us know through the chat feature. The chat feature will be on for now in terms of speaking publicly, but for access reasons, once the presentations start, we'll turn off the chat and you will only be able to send messages to the host in case you need any kind of assistance. If you needed to message us, you can use the chat, but the chats will not show up publicly for the rest of the folks. That is after introduction. So right now, feel free to introduce yourself and all that jazz, and maybe do even image descriptions if you feel like it. In terms of Zoom, it's a relatively an accessible platform. It supports keyboard shortcuts. Please do remember to stay muted if you are not speaking, so that for the benefit of everyone else, they're able to hear the speakers clearly. The mute for keyboard users, mute is Alt-A. On Windows, Command-Shift-A. On Mac, and on the phone, if you're joining us by phone, I think it's *6. I could be wrong about that one. Visually speaking, you would mute by doing this. Kelly's going to tell you.
Hi everyone, Kelly here. I am your host in Zoom world as well. So momentarily, if you have technical issues, that will go to me. To give my image description, which I neglected to do at the outset, I am a light-skinned, late 20-something female identifying person. I have short brown hair hanging at my shoulders that I just chopped off recently for the first time in my life, green eyes, and kind of a pinkish lip. And then to pick up where Walei left off in terms of how to mute yourself visually over Zoom, what you're going to do is hover over your icon, your face. There's 3 dots, and you can hit mute my audio or simply just click mute. Likewise, if you would like to pin a speaker, you hit those 3 dots and select pin.
And do we have any folks interpreting today?
We do. We are joined by 2 lovely interpreters who will be alternating signing. And
Can we shout out their names in case folks want to pin their videos
yeah,
or their
absolutely.
names on in the chat, or as users?
Yeah, so their names are Gina and Kristen, and they also have stars at the beginning of their names for easy access.
Wonderful. Because we're providing access as well, we would like to remind folks whenever you're speaking to introduce yourself. So, if you're going to say a comment, say, this is Wally from MLPD, or, and here's my comment, or I have this question. Always introduce yourself. Be mindful to let only one person speak at a time. This is for the benefit of the interpreters, because they can only interpret for one person at a time. As you have heard, we will be doing visual descriptions and image descriptions. We've described ourselves. We will be describing any sort of visual materials during the presentations in terms of slides. And this is the format that we're going to use. Whenever a slide changes, we will read the slide title, and we'll try to, our presenters know this, we will remind them. So read the slide title when the slide changes, and describe any images that are important on that slide before talking about the slide. With that, I will hand it back off to Kelly, and I'll see everyone in a little bit.
Great, thanks, Walei. Kelly here. I am officially turning off the chat, and we're going to get started with this evening. So essentially what you can expect is we're going to hear from 2 guest speakers. I'm very excited to introduce you today to. They're going to speak for about 10 minutes each, respectively, about their work in the disability community, in the arts, and give you some insight into their practices. That'll take us to about 6:30 p.m. Where we're going to have a group discussion moderated by Walei and dive into some critical discussion questions facing the field for you all to participate in. So for that segment, we'll invite presenters and attendees alike to chime in. But before then, I am really pleased to introduce our first 2 presenters, Krishna Washburn and Alejandra Ospina, who are dance artists, educators, and staff of the Dark Room Ballet. Krishna Washburn is the director and teacher of Dark Room Ballet, which is a pre-professional dance curriculum designed for the educational needs of blind and visually impaired people, the only of its kind in the English-speaking world. Krishna holds a master's of education from Hunter College, a BA from Barnard College, and multiple certifications from the American School of Sports Medicine with a focus on biomechanics. She's joined tonight with her fellow program manager and colleague of the Darkroom Ballet, as I mentioned, Alejandra Ospina, and together they will take us through the work of this really exciting program in dance and the disability community. Krishna?
Hello, everybody. I'm Krishna Washburn, and I'm the Darkroom Ballet teacher. I am here in the Darkroom Ballet studio, which is my Upper Manhattan kitchen. I have a professional dance floor in here with me, along with more quotidian things like my refrigerator and my stove. Inside this room with me are also a big chunky bunny rabbit with long ears and four little birds taking a nap under cover. I'm here joining you today. I had pandemic hair before pandemic hair was cool. I have knee-length hair that is braided and sewn to my head with a patterned ribbon, and I have a little butterfly in my hair as well. And I am wearing my pride shawl that I crocheted myself today in rainbow color. I have black and silver hair and lavender skin, and I am a blind lady. It's wonderful to be here.
Hi, my name is Alejandra Ospina. I am sadly not with Krishna. Krishna is in Upper Manhattan. I'm in Lower Manhattan, although I am a Queens native. I am a wheelchair user. I am a light-skinned Latina with short dark hair, dark glasses, and over-the-ear headphones, wearing a dark blue top and in front of a dark gray virtual background. And I'm very happy to be here and help Krishna talk about what she does and what we do together.
So I think that that's my cue to talk a little bit about what is Darkroom Ballet, how it came to be, and how it exists right now, and how, if there's anyone present at today's event who would like to come and study in the darkroom with me, what that's like. So Darkroom Ballet is a ballet curriculum that I developed while I began developing it while I was studying education at Hunter College. It is not common for dance and movement teachers who teach adults to actually have any background in educational theory. And when I started to really go into the research as it related to my own master's degree, which is actually in childhood education, um, I came to understand certain things about how humans learn. And it really made me wonder why it was that those principles I was not experiencing in my dance education, especially as a disabled student, especially as a blind student. In fact, I was coming up against stereotypes that it would be impossible for me to study these kinds of things. There was no consideration as to modalities of learning. So I started to develop that curriculum quite a long time ago. That's probably like 11 years ago, I started to develop that curriculum. Over time, I was able to develop my own performance career. I performed with multiple different dance companies, both dance companies that bill themselves as physically integrated dance companies and also other kinds of projects. But I never stopped wanting to be a dance teacher, specifically for adult learners. However, I came up against a lot of ableism as to whether or not I would be able to teach. There were a lot of assumptions about my capabilities as a teacher. And I'm like, well, I actually know a lot about education, and I studied with American College of Sports Medicine. I actually know a lot about how the body works. And I also had the benefit of getting to study with a blind dance mentor, Mana Hashimoto, who also taught me a lot of blind dance tradition. I'm, I was like, well, I think that I'm especially qualified to help other blind and visually impaired people learn to study dance. But it was very difficult to get people to take me seriously. I started, I would get like a few classes here, a few classes there, a workshop here, a workshop there. But it was not until I was brought under an NEA grant with my former dance company, Infinity Dance Theater, at the very start of 2020, that I was able to start teaching in a more continuous way. So I got 3 darkroom ballet classes in person at Movement Research Studio in Lower Manhattan, and then the pandemic struck. And then I was like, well, it's time for me to apply for a SOS grant and turn my home into a broadcasting studio. long story short, after that grant ended, I taught free for a very long time. I did teach an introductory level workshop with FMDG Music School, the famous music school for blind and visually impaired people. But it was not until February of this year that I became sponsored by Movement Research officially and permanently. The two classes that I offer on Saturdays is my introductory level class series. That is a series of 8 classes that prepare students from no prior knowledge of dance or movement with an anatomical focus and with all curriculum designed specifically for blind and visually impaired learners to collect the basic vocabulary, movement concepts, and ideas that would allow them to study ballet further. That's an ongoing 8 week. It repeats, it repeats, it repeats. Monday night is an open level class. That is a unit based class. That is meant to support dancers throughout their dance career from new intro completionists and all the way through professionals. I sometimes am blessed with the presence of my fellow blind professional dancers in my class on Monday nights. It is all designed for the needs of blind and visually impaired people. I teach people how to use tape dance technique, which is all about using sensitivity of the feet. I teach people to really let go of a lot of stereotypes that they may have been told about themselves. And I try my very best to have single source audio so that the music and my voice are never asynchronous. That's something that I really, really wanted for my students. So that's, in a nutshell, the last 15 years of my life.
Can I,
and
Krishna,
what my class
this
is
is
like.
this is Alejandra. Can I open the nut a little bit? Can we show people what it's like to teach blind and visually impaired folks, a number of whom are seniors, by the way, to teach them the basics of ballet over Zoom in particular, because that's a question we get all the time. How does that work?
Well, it does work and it works very well. Let me invite you into the darkroom ballet studio. I'm getting off of my chair and going onto my dance floor, and I am switching my beautiful pride shawl to be in the front. Now I'm wearing my technique shoes, but I don't require students to wear technique shoes if they want to wear socks. But I'm on my tape and I'm on the balls of my feet on the tape, and I put the weight in the back of my heels, my turned out femur bones. And what I'd like to do is I would like to give a little sample of the kinds of modalities that I use to teach. Now, because the thing that I always get from people is, well, if someone's making a mistake, you're not going to know. And that simply isn't true, because what's really important about teaching not only adults, but especially seniors, is you need to respect them as people who can understand themselves and check themselves. So that is baked into the curriculum. So let's say I'm going to be teaching some port de bras. I'm going to come en face. I'm going to come off the diagonal and I'm going to face you on plane. For the sake of the sighted people, I'm almost always on the diagonal when I teach class, because that's how my tape is laid out on my square floor. But I'm going to be doing it facing you for the sake of the sighted people here. So there's ways to check yourself. You do not need someone to look at you when you are learning movement technique. You can understand yourself. Let's talk about ballet arms. There's 4 home base positions for our arms in ballet. The first one is our relaxed position. Our elbows are not straight. There's the softest gentlest, most relaxed curve in our elbows. Our arms are down. There's just enough space under the arms. You can feel some molecules of air in the armpit. And our pinky fingers are going to be resting just on the front of your leg. Now, if you could imagine balancing a ping pong ball or a cherry or some beautiful tiny jewel in the palm of your hand, not holding it, not gripping it, but just letting it balance there. That palm facing upward with a little ping pong ball balanced inside. This position is called low fifth position, which is a very unhelpful word. But we, as ballet dancers, we learn these shapes. So this is one shape. Now, if I detach those pinky fingers from my legs at once, and I am only going to be moving my upper arm bone in the shoulder socket, only moving my humerus bone in the socket. So my hands are not touching, there's a little space between them, but if I wiggle my fingers, they can sense each other. And I'm going to bring this shape, this curved shape, as high as my chest. So now my hands are across from my heart. This is also a shape that you might make if you're holding a big basket of laundry against your chest, or if you're pretending to be a basketball hoop for somebody else. This shape, palms have not changed, elbows have not changed. My palms are facing me, my elbows are still soft. This is my first position arms. Once again, not a helpful name, but we learn first position arms is this shape with our palms across from our chest. Now I'm going to keep rotating those upper arm bones up. I don't change my wrists. I don't change my elbows. I bring it up and I make an oval frame around my head. Now I don't bring it too far back. How do I know if I've brought it too far back or not? Let's take away an arm. I'm going to rotate my head in the direction of my other arm. My right arm is up. I've turned my head to the right. I can tap my nose and tap the inside of my elbow, and they're directly across from each other. That's a way for me to check that I haven't gone too far back. If I've brought my arms too far back and I destabilized my upper back and compromised my balance, because balance is the tool of the ballet dancer. If I've done that, I won't be able to do that. There's nothing across from my nose. It's nothing there. I have to bring that arm just there to make this oval frame for my head. Now let's say I want to burst this shape open and bring those upper arm bones about parallel to the floor. I don't change my wrists. I don't change my elbows. I have my upper arm bones reaching to the side, but my forearms are in the front space. This is a shape that I might make if I was going to give someone a big hug. If I finally got to be in the same place as Alejandra after this year and change, this is the shape I'd make right before I gave her a hug. So this is second position. Let's go through this pattern once more. So I'm going to relax those upper arm bones down, keeping the curve in my elbows, not changing the shape of my wrists, and I find pinky fingers on my legs. It's going to be on your legs whether you are standing or seated. Low fifth position. I detach, I bring those upper arm bones to reach in front of me. I don't change my elbows. I don't change my wrists. Palms across from my chest. First position arms. I let those upper arm bones creep up and I keep my neck relaxed and I don't let my trapezius activate around my neck and I keep my shoulder blades flat and relaxed. But my hands are now up, palms across from my hairline. High fifth position. And then I burst that shape open, upper arm bones parallel to the floor, arms opened out to the side, palms facing forward, soft curve in the elbow, forearms in the front space, about to give someone a hug, second position arms. Some other ways to keep track of those shapes as you move through them. You have a nerve in that index finger and middle finger that goes directly into your central nervous system. If you send attention to those fingers as you move through your pattern, low fifth, first, high fifth, second, and you keep awareness of those fingertips moving in space, those nerves can come alive and become bright, and you can keep track of them as they move. So that's my little introduction to ballet arms. I hope you enjoyed that.
I think that might be time for Krishna and myself for now until it's time for some Q&A.
Thank you so much, Krishna and Alejandra. Kelly here. That was beautiful and so engaging to watch. It just struck me that even as someone who is a sighted person, your audio descriptions of the movement was still supremely helpful and aided my understanding of the movement, which gets at this whole concept of accessible design that we're going to talk about later this evening. So in the interest of time, if anyone has questions, let's hold them to the end of the group discussion, and we're going to move on to our second set of guest speakers. So I'm really pleased to introduce you to two representatives from AHRC. AHRC, of course, is an organization serving people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in New York City. We are joined tonight by Michael Kaplan, who serves as the Queen's Program Director for AHRC, as well as his colleague, Zorinka Velek. And please correct me if I mispronounce your name, Zorinka. Zorinka is the Director of Arts and Community Outreach at AHRC, and tonight they are going to speak about a new art space in Queens as part of their Wine Gold program that they envision to be a community art center that supports artists with and without disabilities. Michael?
Okay, thank you so much. And this is Mike Kaplan. Krishna, that was really, really wonderful. Thanks. That was really amazing. And thank you to, to Queens Council for the Arts for the opportunity to be a part of this creative conversation. My name is Mike Kaplan. I'm 52. I'm a guy who's a little portly. I'd like to blame COVID for this, but it was kind of an issue before. I have blonde hair and blue eyes, pale skin. I'm wearing a red shirt, blue jeans, and I'm sitting in my home office in an uncomfortable wooden chair. I have to do something about that. As Kelly mentioned, I'm the program director in Queens. I'm part of an agency called AHRC, which was founded in 1949 by a parent with a child with a disability who put an ad in the paper and said, are there any other parents out there? Let's get together. And the agency grew up around this original, group of parents and children. And the agency was called the Association for the Help of Retarded Children, if you could believe it, for a while, until Self Advocate said, you know what, I don't like the word retarded and I'm not a child. So, but we are still AHRC, although it's just the letters. So we have several programs in Queens, and one of them is the Joseph Weingold Center, where I've been the director. I'm joined by Darinka Vlahek, as you pointed out, the Director of Artistic and Community Development. And many of the people we support are true artists. Darinka is going to be sharing our PowerPoint and describing some of the images of our space and some of the art that people have created, as well as some of the connections that we have made. We'd love to connect with people out there. We really envision our space, which is located on Queens Boulevard and 76th Street in Elmhurst, as a community arts center. So again, we are looking to, connect, to collaborate, to learn from each other. We're very much open to making our space an inclusive arts center. So I see that Darinka just called me. She may be having some technical difficulties. Let me see. She just said,
Mike, it's Jonathan Epstein.
yep,
I'll be presenting for Darinka because she had technical difficulties.
Okay, and Jonathan, thank you. And Jonathan is our transition developer. And why don't you describe yourself for everybody, Jonathan?
Hi, my name is Jonathan Epstein. I'm an arts and community outreach transition developer for AHRC NYC's Adult Day Services. I am a white male in my late 30s with gray glasses, brown hair, and I'm wearing a blue dress, a short blue dress shirt, short sleeved blue dress shirt with tiny bicycles all over it in white. And Mike, would you like me to start sharing the slides? Just let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. One second, sorry.
The first slide that Jonathan is going to show is of our art space. Again in Queens on 76th Street and Queens Boulevard. It's a big open area. There we go. It's a big open area with, I'm just going to read it, blue shiny floors and large floor to ceiling windows at the front. There's a white column in the middle of the space and several art tables and chairs throughout the room. We have a smartboard on the wall. There's also an adjacent room with a large digital printer that can print canvas, as well as a 3D printer. Prior to COVID, we had about 15 or 20 artists who would spend their day there doing, various artistic activities. COVID hit. Just to give you a little, I was going to mention this before. When COVID hit, we had to shut all our day programs down. And this was April of 2020. And I never quite envisioned that we could, run a program through Zoom. As you imagine, it's a challenge, for some people that we support to navigate the technology and all this. But we brought iPads out to lots of folks and did a lot of training, and really our Zoom program resulted in a lot of creativity, and a lot of hard work. But some of the most creative things that we've done have been on Zoom. So now that the pandemic is easing, we're reopening our day programs and people coming back. Whereas pre-COVID, we might have 85 or 90 people in our building, of which we occupy 3 floors. Now we are up to 28, and we're slowly, opening from there. So this, coming back in has been an opportunity for us to kind of, remake what we do, and we are trying to not be program centered. We have these programs, but to be collaborative, to think of Queens as a region and supporting people, really just individually. So if someone lives in Middle Village and they're on Zoom, but they want to come to day program a couple of days a week, we can have a hybrid model of supports where someone's on Zoom 2 days, they come to program maybe a couple of days, and they are supported in their local community, for a day or so. It all depends on what the person wants. Our guiding philosophy is just being person-centered, is going from what someone's hopes and dreams are, and it's as simple and as complicated as that. So as the program director, I'm responsible for, along with a teammate, all the programming in Queens. So I don't mean to drone on and on, but this is our art space. So you can do the next one, Jonathan. Okay, and Darinka wrote the description, so I'll just read them. But this is a work inspired by Jackson Pollock. It has a white background and thin splashes of primary green, orange, white, and black paint spread in every direction. And this was really, inspired by an art consultant that we had a while back. His name was Jason Cena, and he was really, just fantastic. So there we go. Okay, the next one. Okay, this is lines of spray paint in varied thicknesses spread horizontally, and they're dripping into each other from the top to the bottom. We have white, yellow, blue, white again, yellow, blue, white, yellow, blue, and white with smudges of gray and black. So it's kind of a cool graffiti, drippy image. Okay, next one. Okay, this was a wire sculpture, and it is spirals of orange, yellow, rust, and red wires. They link together and create a mass with two primary base points, a peak to the left, ends sticking out, and there's negative space throughout the piece. And the Jackson Pollocks and the sculptures were also shown at the Topaz Art Gallery, which is in Woodside. Just to let you know that. And this is an image of the Queen's Museum, their indoor exhibit area. And this is where individuals have shown their art. So there is a white wall on the left, which features 6 large paintings displayed on the same level. The image is at an angle, and we can only see the first piece clearly. It's an abstract painting of a chicken with short flesh-colored wings and legs of the same color with 3-toed feet. It has an orange head and profile facing to the right with a fiery coxcomb, a round white eye with a vertical black line for the pupil, and an oversized lobster-colored beak. The body's made up of a fried egg encircled by a deep blue oval, a sparse line of patrons spread through the hall that features a wooden floor, a white ceiling with spotlights, and a white wall to the right with black lines that spread at various angles from floor to ceiling. So this is an example of art from people that we support. Okay, Jonathan. Okay, and also at Materials for the Arts, which has been a great source of artistic supplies for us. We had an exhibition. There are 4 portraits that hang on a white wall to the right, with 1 painting on a white wall at the back of the room. And we can only see the first painting on the right clearly. It is of a white woman with pinkish skin, deep red full lips, reddish brown hair, and a yellow blouse. And there are 2 women standing close together, smiling and facing us. The woman on the right wears a red dress and glasses, and the woman on the left wears a blue dress. They both have short hair. So thank you. And we also have a music and memory program. And this is an image of an elderly woman. She's sitting on the couch facing us with her eyes closed and a smile on her face. And her right hand cups her ear and grips her blue headphones. And her left hand is raised in the OK symbol. And the image is cut off at the level of her chest. And music and memory is pretty cool. It's really about helping elders to to remember, to connect through music and movement. So thank you, Jonathan. We'll go to the next one. Okay, and this is Moving Memory. This is part of that program. The image is a group of 9 elderly white women who face us. They're all wearing red caps, gloves, capes, and belts and white dresses. 8 of them point up and towards us, and 1 stands tall between them, reaching toward the sky with the edge of a ship to her right. This program engages seniors in activities with positive experiences, including breathing, movement, acting, and music.
And just this is
Please,
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Just to add one thing about this program is the art that is created is based off of prompts from seniors' memories.
Thank you,
So
Jonathan.
they can make plays or songs based off of those memories.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And we were part of the Queen's Council on the Arts Aging Conference in 2018. So this is an image of some of the people that we support standing there. Darinka didn't read a description, so I'm going to do the best we can. There's 10 people. 4 of them are sitting and 5 are standing behind them. They have a white screen behind them and 7 pieces of art along the left-hand wall. Tough to see it clearly. And the 4 people are sitting around a table, arms around each other, looking pretty happy and proud to be part of this conference. Okay, thanks, Jonathan. All right, and that is that's the PowerPoint. Sorry that Darinka had some difficulty, and I hope I did an okay job.
I have plenty of her notes if you'd like me to share additional thoughts.
Jonathan is wonderful. He is a community developer extraordinaire, has a zillion, knows everybody. I don't know, what can I say about him, but you know, I don't know, Kelly, if we have time for Jonathan to say a word or two, or are we okay? Are we done?
Yeah, you can say a word or two if you have another minute or so, if you would like.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of what we do is support around artists, is support artists with disabilities to professionalize around their artwork. So we hire professional artists to work with people and teach them whatever next steps make sense for them in their career. So we help people get gallery shows. We help people create professional websites around their artwork. And in terms of working with seniors, we make sure it is, I'm just looking for notes here, sorry. There are many barriers, attitudinal and institutional and environmental barriers preventing seniors from full participation in the community. And we create inclusion by providing working with people with disabilities to professionalize around providing disability awareness trainings for the community. And we also support people such as that group of seniors that we saw in the picture. They presented a workshop on memory books that they created, and they shared their experience doing that. And they got to teach an audience about how to recreate that experience for other people. So they became the teachers for their community. And, you know, there's a big difference between the segregation where people were not too long ago, and being artists fully included in communities of other artists with and without disabilities, which is where we're working towards now.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you, Mike and Darinka, and to the whole team at AHRC. That was really great to hear and to see. So Kelly here, we are going to transition into the conversation component of creative conversation. And so what that means is that all of our speakers will now join us in kind of an open Zoom forum discussion where we invite you all as attendees to participate as well and to lead us and guide us through this conversation. I'm super excited to toss it back to our moderator. For those of you who might have joined a little bit later in the call, the rest of the evening is going to be moderated by Walei Sabry, who serves as the Digital Accessibility Coordinator at the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, who serves as a disability rights advocate and identifies as a blind New Yorker. Walei, you have the floor.
Thank you, Kelly. First off, I did adjust my camera, so am I still in the frame or?
This is Mike here, Wally. You're good. You're fine.
All right. Thank you all. All right. So happy to start off this panel. And so we just have a few kind of broad questions that we've outlined in the event description, but we'll start with those questions and get a little dive in a little bit deeper as the conversation progresses. But our first question is, in what ways do the needs of people with disabilities and seniors overlap, and in what ways do they differ?
Hmm.
Hi, Walei. This is Krishna.
Go ahead.
Um, I'm happy to say that my student body is adults of all ages, many of whom are seniors. And also, the majority of my students are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise disabled folks. I love my student community so much, and I honestly don't think that there's any teacher who has better students. But I think that something that seniors overall as a group and disabled folks overall as a group have in common is that people who are not part of their identity have negative stereotypes and assumptions about them, in particular as it relates to learning. Either that disabled people or seniors are not interested in learning things that are new or challenging, or that they can't learn things that are new or challenging. And those kinds of stereotypes are so incredibly harmful. And it is something that just has no basis in reality at all. What we really need to cultivate in our community are high quality teachers who know how to differentiate, who know how to communicate well with their student bodies, and who can design curriculum specifically for the needs of their real students they have in real life, as opposed to any kind of stereotype or assumption that they have that they need to throw in the trash. You need to be interacting with your real students in real life and let them know how much you respect them as intellectual people.
I love that. That's great.
This is Alejandra. It's a concept that Krishna references often, and I believe you call it educational denial.
Alejandra, you're right. Educational denial is what I have chosen to call any time in which somebody else decides for you what you are or are not going to learn. And a lot of disabled people experience educational denial starting from their earliest moments in life if they are born disabled. And as people get older, whether they acquire disabilities along the way, people start to make those kinds of decisions for them again. Oh, what are you going to learn? Oh, you're 25, you're too old to learn dance.
Mhm.
Oh, you're 75, you're too old to learn dance. All of that is absurd because the human brain is designed to always be exposed to and learning new things. That's just what cognitive research has shown. So that is what I call education denial. That's one of the reasons why I've made a point that my class is and will always remain tuition free, because I think that the things that I teach in my class should be available to anyone who has a sincere desire to learn.
I love that, and thank you. So this is Wale, and just to add to that, I think in my, those are really good points, and they touch on a lot of, we didn't say the word specifically, but discrimination or discriminatory kind of practices and thoughts in terms of, not valuing either people with disabilities or seniors and their ability to grow and learn new things. One of the things that I've noticed is similarity is, both people with disabilities and seniors can benefit from accessibility and accommodations, like things like large print or hearing aids or sign language or a number of things, right? Wheelchair access ramps or elevators, right? Curb cuts. These are things that both, the disability community and the aging community, benefit from and empower us to live our lives and get the things that we want to get done, right? I think one difference is that, not every person with disability is a senior, and not every senior wants to identify as a person with a disability. And I only mention that because, you will come across folks who are seniors who are experiencing disabilities, but don't like using that language. And that, that's their prerogative. And just to sort of be something mindful and aware of that sometimes you'll be seeing somebody with a disability, but they might not actually identify themselves as being disabled. Just wanted to include that as a passing thought. Michael, Darinka, any thoughts on, similarities or differences in the needs of people with disabilities in the aging community?
Yeah, no, this is Mike here. Thanks, Wally. Yeah, I did have, a few thoughts, just like the people, that we support, over time, just there can be something of a learned helplessness, like I remember, years ago, speaking to an individual who had a meeting, an annual meeting, whatever, and, how did it go? And he said, well, they told me I'm doing pretty good. You know what I mean? So, and they told me that this is what, I'm going to be working on and stuff like that. So we want to flip the script, and so we do, a lot of volunteerism and giving back, and a lot of, trying, to be the teacher, so that they can share a skill that they learn. So, they're not, service recipients anymore. They're teachers, they're givers, they're the experts. So yeah, those just, my thoughts. Thanks, Wally.
And this is Jonathan. Just to add to what Michael was saying about learned helplessness, uh, you asked a question about the difference between seniors and people with disabilities. There is one distinction between seniors with disabilities, with developmental disabilities, and seniors without developmental disabilities, is that they grew up at a time, seniors with developmental disabilities grew up at a time where they're most likely institutionalized, and provided with very little opportunities and experiences. So they grew up at a time where everything was done. So to define learned helplessness a little more, when you have everything done for you and no one has any expectation that you can ever do anything for yourself, you believe that too. And you never develop any skills of independence or go anywhere near your potential. So my passion for working with adults is that we are now at a time where they get to work with people who do see what they're capable of and do see that they deserve opportunities, and we get to expose them to the world. Uh, and the transition is very difficult for a lot of people, but it's very important that we, as Mike said, flip the script and create a situation where the people that we support become the experts. And so just as a small example, with our partnership with Kaiser's Room, a person that we support who's been involved with musical theater and dance for quite some time now has a job as a writer for a children's show. We have gotten people jobs as facilitators of acting classes, of dance classes, at museums. So we're not pigeonholing people to janitorial work as people with developmental disabilities have often been. That was often the only expectation. So yeah, the world is different now and getting better.
This is Walei. Thank you, Jonathan. Those are great points that are actually good segues into the next question, but I wanted to just know, did anyone have any thoughts before we move on to the next question? And I apologize about the noise coming from the street. I live in a very busy street. So.
Hello, my name is David. I'm not a panelist. I'm just in the audience. May I speak to the question?
Sure.
Hi, everyone. My name is David. I'm in my late 30s and I have my camera off. I want to take about a minute to talk about why community matters to me. And then I want to talk about what teachers have done that have made their classes so important to me. My main idea is that community nourishes me, and having a place to present my voice and my reactions and hear other people's voices and their reactions draws out the humanness in me. So this pandemic has been very isolating, and it's been triggering mental health issues throughout the 9 months. And one of the things that keeps me a little bit more stable are things like Krishna's classes and are things like improv classes that make space for people like me who can't emote or can't feel as deeply as before, but they're still able to work with it. And when I am able to contribute in, for example, those improv classes or in Krishna's class, they are glad to have my voice. And then other people's voices and reactions come up, and that it makes me more functional. Same with Alexander technique classes I take. There's always an opportunity at the end of all of these classes that have worked for me to ask questions and to hear other people's reactions. And our reactions are sometimes not happy reactions. They are reactions of I struggled with this. And I guess my main contribution that I want to speak up is having a safe place to be truly yourself and participate in the capacity that you find yourself in. When other people make space for that, it is healing and it is stabilizing. And it is wonderful to have a community space where your voice can speak as you truly are, whether you're in a great place or in a crappy place, and to hear other people too. So that's always been what's been helpful for me, and I want to share that.
Thank you, David. We appreciate that. And having a safe space, I think, is really the starting point for any good programming or activities where you want people to participate. And part of that, right, is why we do access checks. And that's why we encourage folks to do things like start with access checks. And when you advertise your events, also put in access language so that people can request accommodations, right? And these sort of things. I want to move on to art and accessibility. So our next two questions are going to be dealing with that specifically. So the question in its technical form is, what are some examples of accessible design that can benefit everyone? And I think really what this question is really asking is, how can we make art accessible? And what are some examples that you can draw on from your own experience, either as a disabled person or as somebody who has worked with other folks to make things that art accessible to folks with disabilities? Does anybody want to take that question on?
Hi, Wally. It's Krishna.
All right.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much to my student, David. I am so proud of him and so proud to be his teacher, first of all, because he is a true artist. I think that myself, as a blind person, coming into art either in the form of performance that I attend as an audience member or in an educational setting, there's several things that I am always particularly interested in. Number one, is the artist or teaching artist involved available for me to have a two-way conversation? 1/3 of every darkroom ballet class is question and answer time. You've spent an hour focused and concentrating on your own movements and movement ideas, your own thoughts, your own body, your own anatomy. Then you can talk to me about everything you experienced. You can ask me any kind of question. Also, I feel like when we are working with living artists, they should be able to have conversations and be open to hearing other people's voices. That's really where arts community comes from. Now, I'm also going to mention audio description. I am so fortunate to be working with Alejandra, who is a professional audio describer. And I think that there really needs to be an investment in audio description as an art form all on its own, because the same styles of audio description do not translate seamlessly to every medium. I really feel like there needs to be different styles of audio description for different kinds of art. I think that audio description, as it was developed, was really meant for television and film. Live art might need something different. Dance might need something different. Even the way that we talk about visual art might need something different. What I use when I teach a class, I'm doing self audio description, and I like to call it pedagogical audio description because I'm describing with the purpose of
Krishna,
helping someone learn.
if I may interrupt you for 1 second, just to maybe explain what audio description as a concept is before.
Oh my goodness, please go ahead.
No, you. I was asking you to do that. I can do that, of course, as well. But
Oh no, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Audio description is the way by which blind and visually impaired people get to interact with media. It is description of all of the information that might be missing if you do not have sight to gather that information. An audio describer is using descriptive language during that live performance, TV show, film, art exhibit that you might be attending.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, sorry to cut you off. Keep going.
Oh, I'm ready to go. I would actually like to hear what Alejandra has to say.
Hi. Yeah, I knew you would summon me. I just, the only thing that I wanted to add is that audio description is a field, but it's also a way to be, so that everyone in this room who self-describe themselves, either in the video or in the chat, is also essentially an audio describer. And so it's a way to be, it's a way of thinking about how you can help other people navigate the world around you. And that extends to your Facebook posts, your social media, your neighbor down the street who might not be able to see things on TV as well anymore, your friend in a faraway country who has a poor internet connection and images don't load. It's a form of universal access. It's a form of leveling the playing field for visual information, and some of it is artistic and some of it is very functional and practical, and all of it benefits nearly everyone. End of thought.
Hi, this is Jonathan Epstein. I just wanted to jump in and have a reaction to Walei's question, how accessible art is better for everyone. Is that okay,
Jonathan,
Walei? No?
Krishna, were you completely done with your answer? I know
Sorry.
you had some stuff that you were going to get into, right? Pedagogical audio description.
Oh, I was done. Oh,
Okay.
pedagogical audio description, that is just what I use. That's audio description with the explicit purpose of teaching someone something.
Great. So yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Jonathan.
So accessible art is better for everyone. So one thing that makes art experiences accessible is pre-planning. So letting people know ahead of time what to expect when they come and visit a museum makes that experience much more successful for the disability community. But that's great for anyone to know what to expect, and you aren't surprised if you don't want to be, and you're prepared for what you're going to experience. Also, an accessible art exhibit or experience includes people with disabilities, has people with disabilities represented in it. And that destigmatizes people with disabilities, and we are all better together. And diversity is, scientifically proven to make life and teams more efficient and better and more successful. So disability is the D in diversity, by the way. And audio descriptions, I find, bring me, and I've heard this from many people, much deeper into the artwork when you have a very thoughtful audio description of a piece created by someone who, with deep knowledge of the piece, it creates a new appreciation for it. In terms of accessible spaces, no one wants to trip over things that are jutting out into the hall, or try to make their way through narrow spaces with crowds anyways. So making spaces wheelchair accessible is good for everyone. And an accessible art experience is presented for different types of learners. Our education system has traditionally taught for only one type of learner, but people with and without disabilities learn in all kinds of different ways. So if materials are presented in various ways, it's good for everyone. And the last point is that when an accessible arts program is set up not with strict schedules, because you have to, you can have a plan, but you can't expect that your plan is going to go by plan, and you leave time for the unexpected. And that's good for everyone, because as Krishna was saying, like, she makes time for her students to connect with her, and leaving extra time for any arts program builds in everyone, people with and without disabilities, time to connect with the presenter. And that's really important.
Thanks, Jonathan. All wonderful points, and I think you touched up on something I wanted to also emphasize, which is have sort of patience and compassion, and plan for unexpected things. Or I want to say lower your expectations, right, as an organizer, but basically, kind of have adaptive expectations, if that means anything, right? And things like giving folks enough information about the event and what to expect. Today we had a run of show, and it was broken down by the minutes. That was for the presenters. I don't know if that was shared with attendees, but that's something that is super helpful, right? If I'm going to an event and I know exactly what's happening when, and I might be late because I'm usually late, then I'll have like, I'll be able to know where I'm gonna come into the program instead of sort of, or maybe if there's a spot where in the program where I can come into the event without making a big disruption, right? That can give me a lot more, a lot less anxiety and stress around going there, right? And also, as organizers, we should sort of just go with the flow and sort of be prepared for things to take a lot longer than we expected. For example, today, according to our run of show, we were going to start this panel at 6:30, I believe. I could be wrong. Well, we definitely did not start it at 6:30 or 6:44 even, right? We started it sometime after that. And that's totally fine, right? We just adapted and we're still having, at least in my opinion, a great program and, you know, a lot of wonderful ideas flowing through. Just my own sort of quick anecdotes about art and accessibility. Audio description is a huge one, and different forms of audio description as well. In museums, audio description is referred to as verbal descriptions, right? Multi-sensory tours, right? In museums where if there's art, maybe they might 3D print a model of it. They might create tactile representations. And there are a lot of tools that you can use that are low cost to create such things. And I personally, yeah, actually, I'll save that for the next question. But, you know, definitely tactile paintings are a thing. You know, a lot of folks think, well, what about paintings and blind people, right? There is such a thing as making your paintings tactile. Or sculptures, right, are, you know, tactile in nature. Let's not forget about, you know, sign language interpreting for performances and captions for performances and videos. Video is a form of art as well. Music, right? There is actually a form of American Sign Language that is sort of, I think, I actually don't know what it's called, so I'm not going to make it up, but it's kind of an integrated way of signing lyrics and with like a rhythm of the music. It's kind of interesting. So there is a lot out there, and I wanted to sort of just share that with you guys before passing it on to anyone else who wanted to share for this question before we move on to the next question. Any thoughts, anyone, about art and making art itself accessible?
My name is Chris Sahar. I'm one of the audience members.
Hi, go ahead.
Hi. My screen is not up, but I'm sitting at my home. Blonde hair, glasses, blue eyes, 6'2", but sitting down, and red shirt. One thing I think that would help make it accessible is not just the ways of making it literally accessible, but, and this is probably a totally different topic, but something to think about, economic equality. If you have more paying people who have the income to go to higher end art venues, you know, the ones that are like, oh yeah, we're doing a fundraiser. Well, if you have 40% of the audience that, you know, has some hearing impairment, some visual impairment, or they're feeling quite open about it, you know, they're willing to be honest about it. They're not trying to maybe put it under the rug because they want to look good because, you know, they're among wealthy people or people of means and they want to just show their best. You know, it can be that way. People can act that way. You know, we are part of the animal kingdom. So we do things that are common to birds that hide illnesses and other species that try and hide any weakness that they perceive as a weakness. Let me qualify, they perceive as a weakness or they're afraid it will be perceived. So I think it's a little tangent, but it's important. Economic equality, you know, making sure pay. I mean, is that something that is always in the back of your mind too, of trying to figure out a way as part of your work to say, hey, you know, we're doing all these things, but what do we do? Are we also considering linking up with organizations or working with organizations that ensure people are not economically discriminated against just because of a hearing impairment, a visual impairment or whatever.
Thank you for that.
That would improve accessibility. You know what I mean? Because the larger institutions would realize they have
Absolutely,
to
that
respond to it.
is 100%. You know, a big part of accessibility is affordability, and Krishna mentioned how she is very adamant about her programming being free. I'm a big fan of that myself, and you know, working for government, I get a chance to make sure that the programming that we put out there, because we are government, is free, and we get to work with community partners as well. So that is a great point. So I do want to move on to our next question. It is 7:25. Actually, do we have time for a last question, Kelly? I don't want to take away time from you.
Sorry, Kelly here, I was muted. I think we have to take our own or your own advice here and be flexible.
Okay.
That we won't have time probably to get to the last question, but I do want to make sure that there were a couple hands up earlier. I want to make sure that we give people who might want to say something on this question a chance to talk. I believe someone named Michelle had something to say.
Hi, everyone. Queens
Michelle.
born, Brooklyn raised. Speaking of community, I just wanted to mention, like, this panel is modeling that by having not only creating programs for people with disabilities and elders to access, but also being the people in the decision making. Right, the moderator of this panel is disabled. There's a disabled dance teacher teaching other disabled students, and having community work together in all the different aspects, from the stage manager to the lighting designer to the ticket taker, relaxed performances, child care services, economic different price ranges that people can access, arts administrators, there's all sorts of, like, every aspect of this, and some vocabulary within community that was hinted upon is crip time. You know, some things take longer. Krishna is throwing her hands up in the air and opening her arms out wide. I am also an audio describer and a dancer, born disabled, lifelong New Yorker. And what was the other point about? Oh, crip time and access intimacy. The ways in which having, as David was describing, the intimacy of sharing within community and having a space that can be safe, that you can be vulnerable, that you can say you're struggling and be supported by one another, whether it's people creating programs or whether it's community, like organizations, major organizations, or members of community creating space for one another to support each other. And so I just wanted to bring that into this room as well.
Thank you, Michelle. Actually, you touched up on your first point, basically touched up on my third question, which we're not going to get to talk about, which is, you know, how do we empower people with disabilities as creators, basically? You know, basically the point of that question is, don't think of us as just audience members. We're also artists, right? And if you have an art space, do you have tools that you know, allow for accessible art making for folks maybe who have trouble seeing, or folks who might not be able to use traditional art tools? So just some food for thought. Were there any other raised hands or comments?
Michael, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I didn't know if there was time or not. So I take Krishna's class. She is this is like, if a ballet class was in our very evolved spiritual, you know, it's like future, you know, she's so heartfelt, and there's so much detail in how she speaks about the dance, that the way I ingest it, it's more intellectually sound. So I really appreciate everything, you know, her class. And then I just wanted to say that quick. I know there's not much time, but Accessibility is, to me, if you're thinking in a very simple way about it, which I would hope in the future, talking about the future of having arts accessibility, that it's just bulk. It's just more of it. And the particulars are being figured out by the community and the public. Now, the public has certain like ideas about how to go to the theater, for example, or even go to an art gallery. We're going to go, when we go to New York, we're going to go to the Met, or we're going to go to Broadway. That's fine. Those are fine options. But, you know, even in the fringe festivals, even in communities that are opening communities up to what the arts can be, like from the ground up. So that is a great thing. So I think it's just also for artists, I'm going to say something really quick, one more point. Artists thinking of how they represent their art, and often they are humbled to the fact that they are not so good on a negative side, that they're not thinking that it's the the efforts that go rewarded for them. So there's a lot of complications about rewards and artists and self-esteem, because the arts are always put like last on the list. So I think we are evolving, and here we've got people here. By the way, I want to say quickly, those paintings were amazing. I cannot believe those paintings, and the wire sculpture was blew my mind. It's integration through education, but it's just awareness through doing it. And I like one very last thing, that city court grants, which I applied for. That de Blasio was really trying to get people up and out, and he did the right thing. And Mayor de Blasio has not done all bad things. That is a very, that's a really beautiful twist on the end of his, residency as mayor.
As somebody who works for the mayor's office for people with disabilities, it's nice to hear somebody say one nice thing about the mayor.
Well, everyone, this is Kelly here from QCA again. We are at time, a little bit past time, so I just want to take the opportunity to wrap up. First, I just want to thank all of the panelists and sort of co-creators of this event, especially Walei Sabry, who has really co-designed and been sort of the co-curator of this evening. I've learned so much from working with you, Walei, as well as from this lineup of panelists. Thank you all for this really lovely and engaging conversation. For those of you who are wondering, the recording will be available after the fact, both to everyone on this call as well as anyone else on the internet who would like to see it via our YouTube channel. So we'll follow up with that recording probably early next week, along with a survey you can fill out if you want to tell us what you liked or what we could do better. Other than that, again, just want to thank Walei, Krishna, Alejandra from Darkroom Ballet, Michael Kaplan and Darinka, as well as Jonathan of AHRC. Also, thank you to our ASL interpreters, Gina and Kristen. We appreciate your time and services as well. And have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay.
Thanks all. Have a
Mike
good
here.
night.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to Michael and Michelle, both of whom have extremely special places in my heart.
You have big fans.
Yeah. Thanks for making it through, Krishna and Alejandro. We love it. Like, you guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I take it we'll see you in class soon, Walei?
Yeah, totally.
The next cycle of intro starts on July 10th. It's not that far
Awesome.
away. If
Good.
you
My
want to come and
report
join,
is done in July 1st, so I'll have my life back, and I plan to make some changes.
it's free.
That's right, it is.
If anyone wants to know more about the classes and the work, you can go to darkroomballet.com.
Great, thank you. Also, we do this creative conversation thing once a month, last Thursday of every month. So if you want to join us next month and the month after that, it is always free and it's always open to anyone who wants to participate in the conversation.
All right.
Bye, thanks all.
Thanks.
All righty.
Everyone, thank
you.
you
Good night,
so much.
everyone.
Thanks,
Kelly.
guys.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Walei.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.